There's no shortage of hate on the internet for Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. Yes, these games have technical issues that need to continue to be patched, and they make some unfortunate to straight up baffling decisions elsewhere that I want to give my 2 cents on in a future video. Subscribe for that if you enjoy this, by the way. That said, I love these games and feel they aren't being given their due praise for what they do very right. I compiled some of my highlights, and don't worry, I'll avoid any spoilers without ample warning outside of some footage of Pokemon you may not have seen yet. Let's talk about it. I discovered the joy of this mode a lot later than I would have liked, but I have fallen in love with the photo mode in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. New Pokemon Snap is a game I enjoyed quite a bit as a Pokemon world building fanatic, so I'm happy to see, although not as in-depth in terms of Pokemon interactions, it's just as fun to hunt for and set up fun moments to capture in this game as it is in that. Obviously, the feature isn't nearly as fleshed out, and non-wild Pokemon can have some annoying behaviors that make it hard to capture good selfies with them, but all in all, I enjoy the ability to catch things like a new shiny and snap a pic of them next to its non-shiny counterpart, or taking pictures of funny or interesting things that happen in the overworld, and obviously group pictures with friends in a union circle. I regret that I didn't think to use this feature during my initial playthrough, but I definitely plan to in future playthroughs, be it challenge runs or not. Going into this game, we all knew they would be centered around a Pokemon Academy. That said, even though this concept is uncharted territory for the series, schools in Pokemon are nothing new. They're a mainstay that Game Freak has always used as a diegetic resource to teach players about the systems within the game. They've done this in every single game, and they've always done so poorly. They've always been bad learning tools that could effectively be summed up as incomplete wiki guides fed to you on a Jeopardy board of text boxes. All of the information given is face value. None of the topics breached are fully explained. I know this because I've been playing Pokemon for almost as long as I've been alive, so when I started playing through Scarlet, I assumed that Naranja Academy's lessons had nothing to offer me and entirely skipped them. I sort of regret making that decision now after being nudged by the game to complete one set of lessons for a cool post-game thing, and immediately after going back to play through the rest. For the first time since becoming a fan of the series, the game has taught me a few things about how they work that I never knew, and it did this in a pretty engaging way with characters and small in-game rewards along the way. They're not perfect, and some of the lessons are less about teaching everyone Pokemon and more about teaching young people about life, but even those were fascinating to me as someone that finds game design and the approach to tutoring players in a way that feels natural interesting. And I wish I suggested a friend I played through these games with who had never played a Pokemon game before beelined it to doing the same for these reasons. Beyond the learning side of things, these classes also further the narrative of the game with Fire Emblem-esque relationship building storylines with every major character in the school. I was personally really surprised by just how much there was in these quest lines, and even more than that, I appreciated the fact that all of it is 1, optional, 2, worth investing in once you're in the mood. As someone that is generally very critical of video game storytelling, I found the character building found in these to be worthwhile. The additional context for all of these characters allows this game to really stand out from previous games on a world building level regarding supporting characters and the setting of the games. The DLC hasn't been released at the time of making this video, but I'm confident that will improve on this even more personally. On the subject of learning, Game Freak did a phenomenal job, mostly, with the process of your Pokemon growing and learning as well. The Pokemon Sword, Shield, and Arceus move remembering and forgetting improvements return, and in addition to that, Game Freak included a new feature that allows for players to get a second opinion on their Pokemon's moveset from the Pokemon itself. You know, if the player runs into a bit of analysis paralysis or something. Not only do I think this is a good move for onboarding new players, it's also a nice addition to their world building. Pokemon are sentient. You'd expect them to have an opinion on this sort of thing. They don't always get it right, but that has its own charm as well, I think. think. Pokemon wouldn't always know the best battle strategy considering the context of the world, so why would they always give you the best one in this context? And on a gameplay level, I'm sure Game Freak would prefer not to steer any playthroughs in any particular direction or suggest that any specific movesets are necessarily the correct one. This has the obvious onboarding new fans advantages, but even more than that, for me, it presents a fun challenge run opportunity that I plan on leveraging over on the Watch Redirect Twitch channel, and that is completing runs of the game where every move your Pokemon knows becomes exclusively their decision. After all, it's not really the best tool for optimizing Pokemon. Your Pokemon will not always choose what's best for it. Sometimes quite the opposite. Using that for a bit of an unpredictable run paired with the connection building rule sets of a Nuzlocke challenge, I think could bring some unexpected additional replayability to these games. It's also a big personal addition because typically the new features I tend to enjoy the most are the ones that make the world feel more lived in, and giving Pokemon this sense of independent thought gives them an extra layer of character that's been lacking in the mainline games up until now, even if that character is largely informed by how the player chooses to interpret the feature. With every new Pokemon game, quality of life improvements are the most important mark to beat, and for the first time since Gen 5, and definitely more than ever all things considered, Game Freak has made a massive leap forward in regards to the Pokemon Centers, both in terms of usability and utility. I don't exactly love the gas station-esque approach, especially as a universal solution, as if it were up to me, the community hub feeling of Pokemon Centers in the anime is the way to go. However, everything else about the way Pokemon Centers function in Scarlet and Violet are smart and appreciated. The Pokemon Center proper specifically's only big improvement is that it can serve as a guide for players that want endgame guidance on what to do next. This is cooler in theory than it is in practice, as it seems to be based on proximity rather than your Pokemon's ability to take on a given gym, Titan, or Starbase. The rest of the facilities are where much bigger strides are made, beginning with my favorite change, and that's the bulk buy and bulk sell feature. If you weren't aware, you can multi-select items you wish to spend or make money on in any quantity you want. It's a huge time saver, which is always a welcome change in a Pokemon game. And you get these neat itemized receipts that I like for some reason. On that topic, there's also the introduction of league points, which are a second form of currency that can be used to purchase items as well if for whatever reason you don't want to or can't afford to use Poké Dollars for a purchase. I usually end up using these as cheap money, like buying stuff I wouldn't buy otherwise, but feel better about spending league points on. Sandwich ingredients are usually in this boat. That said, I try to avoid spending them too often, as they are the only way to use the entirely new Pokemon Center element, the TM machines. Admittedly, I have a love-hate relationship with the execution of this feature, as it was only facilitated by regressing on how TMs work by way of making them single-use items again for the first time in over a decade. It's also not my favorite thing in the world that it turns TM crafting into a fetch quest of sorts, assuming you don't go out of your way to attack or capture every wild Pokemon you encounter in the wild. What I do like about it though is how easy it can make theory crafting a new Pokemon's moveset. On multiple occasions, I found myself scrolling through the TM machine's type tabs to figure out the best move for a given Pokemon to achieve a specific strat, something that I'd otherwise need to pull up a Bulbapedia page for. Something I'm absolutely shocked by is the lack of kudos Scarlet and Violet are getting for their online mechanics based on a lot of the doubt surrounding their implementation and the lead up to the release, and the overall sentiment surrounding the dreaded monolithic fabricated Nintendo Online ISP gamers seem convinced exists. I played well over 100 hours of Scarlet so far, almost entirely with a group of friends in co-op from the moment I could at 8 AM Thursday release week, having purchased the New Zealand eShop version of the game. The setup is fast and easy, with the process of first getting online being streamlined to a single button press. The Union Circle system being so straightforward it was hard for many to believe, and the stability of the connection once established from my experience, which again I have tens of hours of footage from multiple perspectives to source, has been flawless. I have some gripes with limitations that I'll get to later, but I can still confidently say I never want to experience a new Pokemon game any other way. On a practical level, playing with other versions brings their exclusives into the game's shared world, minus the Charcadet Evo items, which is weird to me, but I digress. Trading, battling, and raiding no longer require codes and will alert all members of the raid with an option to join, and most impressively to me, all players can naturally continue their individual playthroughs without interruption, including if the Union Circle is disbanded. On a mostly frivolous Pokemon world building level, it's sick to be able to physically walk with your friends to do something, or help them find an area they haven't been to, or cheer them on while they try to catch a new Pokemon or battle a tough trainer. And if you're a fan of challenges, it's a great feature to use in Soul Links, since the shared pool of wild Pokemon means you can find something a friend is looking for and they can come to you to find it. I've made use of this more times than I can count, and I don't think I'd ever be satisfied with any future Pokemon game that doesn't have an equivalent feature or better. I've always loved the Pokemon bonding centric features for Pokemon games, so it doesn't exactly surprise me that I found picnics to be amusing at least, but I am surprised at how genuinely useful they are as well. For fans of battling, it's a much more efficient way to farm eggs for breeding Pokemon, since you no longer need to interact with a daycare or nursery worker to obtain eggs anymore. You only need to wait for a few minutes at a time to get batches of up to 10 at a time, which brings me to the sandwich feature. Initially, I just figured it would be a fun thing to do with friends and a Union Circle every once in a while. I ended up being right about that, but it's also a successor to the O-Power feature in a lot of respects, as every sandwich has effects that give players different boosts, like improving catch rate or more Pokemon with special sizes, and a bunch of other effects that I don't ever intentionally make use of. As for effects I do take advantage of on a regular basis, sandwiches are an easy way to get more eggs, alongside other things I'll get to in a bit. Obviously, breeding is also a reliable way to hunt for shiny Pokemon for fans of that method. Sandwiches can help with this as well, as you can essentially create mass outbreaks with increased shiny Pokemon odds as a result of sandwich recipes, which also can simultaneously assist in the team building process by way of the classic EV training method. For example, I commonly use Dragon Encounter sandwich recipes to spawn Cyclizar, which yields speed EVs. I have found shiny Pokemon while doing this, like my shiny Tatsugiri. It's a bad shiny version, it just looks like the curly form, I don't want to talk about it. Which was a byproduct of one of these EV training sessions. This can add hundreds of hours of playtime for people that enjoy shiny hunting, building teams, and battling Pokemon. It already has for me. I hope you enjoyed this video a fraction as much as I am enjoying this game. Follow me on Twitter if you want to see more of me gushing about and/or chronicling my experience with these games, and subscribe to the channel for more videos like this. And if you'd like to support what we do and get more back for it in exchange, check out our Patreon linked in the description. Okay, that's it for me. See you in the next one.